Hello and welcome to another classic WoW with Mao podcast. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Mike Morhaime interview that came out that talked a lot about WoW's changes over its history. And we're going to be talking a little bit about this Cenarian rep grind that has started to become a heated battlefield out on the server of Grobulus and many others. And as always, we'll be talking about what's going on in the great server of Grobulus. But first, how are we doing today, Myth?
Today I'm doing great. I got some shopping done. I like to do groceries on Mondays, and this week has been awesome for me. I, using my tax return, finally upgraded my monitor. I've been using a 1080p 27-inch widescreen monitor for almost 11 years since I bought it right in Wrath of the Lich King. And I finally upgraded to a 1440p 32-inch 144 hertz monitor, and it is awesome.
So let me be the first to say, one, congratulations on an extremely awesome monitor upgrade, and number two, I am mad jealous to the tune of I've been looking at monitors ever since you said that.
Yeah, the person I live with is the same thing. They basically are like, well, am I buying a new monitor now? Because that thing looks so nice. I'm surprised, because I never really thought about upgrading past 27 inches, because it starts to get like pretty big at that point. But man, I don't know, 32 just feels like the perfect gaming size.
I am currently on a 27-inch myself. The thing that really caught my attention, though, was just, double the frame rate of what I have right now is just absolutely absurd. And I imagine it's just an absolute joy to watch your character glide across the screen in World of Warcraft, among other games.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Dota since I got it, and with like the higher resolution settings, it's actually I'm surprised how much I can notice the difference in the monitors. Like, I thought it was always more of like a fluke thing where people are like, I can tell the difference between this many hertz and this many hertz, but now that I actually have it, it's pretty visible. Like, I'm very pleased.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Once again, congratulations on an awesome purchase. And man, maybe that's going to end up being like the last little bit of my stimulus money or something like that, because I'm definitely hunting for an upgrade in that department, because I got to say, that sounds like a pretty great way to enjoy the upcoming Encourage and Nax phases that we're going to be getting in WoW Classic.
Well, so not only that, but think about how much more time I'm spending right now, because I'm doing a lot of contract work from home during this pandemic. I'm basically looking at my monitor 12 hours plus a day. There's no reason for me to not be looking at like a much nicer monitor than what I had.
Yeah, plus, as far as I understand, I think it's a lot better for your eyes to have the higher frame rates and things like that. Just, it puts a lot less strain on them, and to my understanding. So it's just all around, if you're going to be on it for that many hours, at the very least, you may as well give yourself the prettiest picture to look at.
Yeah, I wonder. I never actually tried diagnosing. Since I do mostly contract work anyway, I don't really have insurance, so I never have attempted to diagnose why I get really bad headaches or migraines sometimes. But I wonder if it's like spending so much time looking at my monitor and how bad the old monitor was. I wonder if that was contributing to the, like, quite frankly, like terrifying, like, light sensitivity migraines that I get sometimes. I wonder if that has something to do with it, like eye strain.
It very well could, and I think it has a lot to do with how monitors have evolved over the years also. It's been something that's always been a point of contention when it comes to screens in general, right? Don't sit too close to the TV. It's bad for your eyes. We're on computers all the time these days, and we're right up next to them. And you think about like some of those old CTRs and some of the bad monitors you used to play the original, computer games on. Some of those had some, pretty harsh colors on them. We're right up next to them, and that process has really changed over the years. And I'm sure in the background, that's kind of been on the side of it, right? What's gonna allow us to be able to look at the screens for longer hours with less wear and tear on the eyes?
Well, I will say that there were an awful lot of monitors. I'm not particularly sure if the one that I purchased had this like air quotes technology, but quite a few of them um, were marketing around like sensitive eye care, like quality of life things like that. Um, so I don't know. I guess maybe it is, and we'll see. I mean, I haven't had a headache in the last couple days since I got it, so we'll see if over the course of time, maybe it does make my life a little bit better.
Yeah, we'll have to check in on that. In the meantime, though, just enjoy the beautiful new look of WoW and the rest of your computer games. So, as we
As
mentioned earlier, the Cenarian rep grind is on now, and it's created a huge battlefield in Silithus, especially on our server, and I imagine on many others. And it really has gotten me wondering, AQ40's got to be around the corner, right?
I was originally predicting, if we're gonna be honest, um, a phase 5 rollout uh, at the end of August, but I don't know. I mean, we've been doing BWL for almost 2 months now. Oh, more than 2 months. It's been like 12 clear. It's been like 3 months. Dang. We might be closer than I thought. Because I mean, technically, right? Phase 5 isn't the immediate release of Encourage. It's the gate that like we have to do the war effort too. So they may take that into account and release the patch earlier than I was originally anticipating. We could, I mean, man, it'd be crazy if we saw like a June war effort patch.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to expect. It feels like with the way game companies have been treating the pandemic situation is they're trying to get either content out or give gamers reasons to re-tap back into their resources. Blizzard, on the other hand, has kind of just stayed the course for the most part during this time. We haven't gotten anything kind of like WoW specific for this other than layering and things like that for some servers, not even all.
Well, that's in classic. I mean, I will actually say that in retail they've done the like double experience and double reputation boost for returning players or for pretty much everybody. I just obviously that wouldn't play well in classic. Like if they started like giving world buffs to everyone, like doubling their experience, that'd be kind of crazy. But um, yeah, I would like to see them do something. We still have like we still have pretty bad queues here on Grobulus, so I don't know. Layering, I really feel like layering could be helpful, and that's not just the tank in me who has to buy a 200 gold Black Lotus every week or a 175 gold Black Lotus every week. Like it's the the game wasn't designed for the service to be this big. Like it just wasn't designed that way. If we had if we had like 4,000 max level characters instead of 9,000 max level characters, the demand for Black Lotuses would be significantly reduced.
When I go back to this, we've talked about this a few times. If they had just implemented like a faction balance, for example, once you hit a certain level, it's going to cap out on this. It might have helped solve some of the issues that we have now. Scarum, for example, is now at like 99.8% horde, and the horde that are remaining there, the alliance that are remaining there are pretty much just there as a strong, just to go against the tide really at this point. Nothing, no other reason. It's going to be interesting to see with those servers, are they going to be really adversely affected? Do they have horde guilds that are already ready to take over the alliance side? And, this is kind of like the new reality. Servers have these identities that are just based upon the chaos that has ensued with every solution along the way. But none of those solutions have ever really looked at the overall impact on the game, I don't feel.
Yeah, I was super frustrated this weekend because I read an article, or not necessarily an article, but it was a forum post and then a Reddit post about a server, Crom Crush, I want to say it was. Basically, a horde guild from Incendius, which is Incendius is like the alliance server. It's like 86% alliance. a Horde guild transferred off Incendius to Chrome Crush, which is like a 65-35 Horde server. So it's definitely not balanced. And they were obviously not helping the balance in that situation. And they basically just got griefed off the server, and it's actually a pretty frustrating thing to hear about, because really, how bad was their situation beforehand to just get worse when they go to a server with a better balance? Like, just because, I don't know, that server has a group of like terrible people on it. It's like the server situation is incredibly dire, I think, and the toxicity that people are really just, they're just bullying each other based on these faction imbalances. It's bad for the long term health of video games.
This actually is something that WoW kind of mitigated, right, by not having the factions be able to speak to each other. And then we've seen in games ever since the ability to not trash talk your opponent basically has become even more prominent, right? Like think about Hearthstone or the way you might play another TCG type game. You don't even get to talk to people anymore for that very specific reason, how heated it gets in the heart of that competition. But right now it's almost become like a point of pride for some to be able to destroy the experience enough for the other faction that they don't even want to be on the server. And this is, on one sense, I guess I can understand how that could be very triumphant. On the other hand, it definitely feels like it's taken things a little bit too far.
Yeah, the thread that I read about, something like 500 Alliance players stopped raiding the night of this guild's raid, camped the, not just Blackrock Mountain, but both the flight path, like the flight paths leading to Blackrock Mountain, and made this guild spend 2 hours attempting to corpse run into Molten Core. And then one of the people from this random Horde guild who was a streamer. They basically just disbanded. Like everyone was just tired. Like they're just like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. And they're all like petitioning to try and go back to their Incendius, which is maddening, because that's, again, it's 87% Alliance. That imbalance is ridiculous. Well, I don't understand why anyone would want to play on that either.
What is interesting to me, though, is with such a large imbalance, like if they went... So I guess this is what I'm unsure about. There was 35% Horde on that server, or were they the majority?
The one that they... No. So the one that they went to was 65% Horde. They transfer... So the two server populations, Chrome Crush and Incendius, according to Ironforge Pro, which is, it's only taking into account Warcraft logs. Like that's how Ironforge Pro tests server pop, is the number of max level characters that submit logs every week. So according to their log data, the servers are about the same. They both have a population of like 8,000 players max level, at least 8,000 rating players. And one of them is the Incendius is the Alliance server with 86% Alliance, and then Chrome Crush is a mostly Horde server with 65% Horde. It's still not balanced. It's significantly more balanced than 87% though.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess what I wonder about in this particular situation is with one group, I guess, fighting so hard to, I guess, protect the mountain. I wonder if there was possible to, mount a counter assault. And this kind of gets back to that thing that maybe we talked about. There might be too many people playing on PvP servers that maybe don't want the PvP server experience. And there is this sort of thing where I don't ever really know if I want my PvP server to ever feel like the two factions aren't quite at war, right? And we talk about some of the toxicity, some of the world buff losses, but there's also some great moments that come from PvP. And I don't know if it comes from 500 people corpse camping 40 trying to get into the dungeon, but I also think that there's a group of people that might rise to that challenge and maybe want to stick it back to them. I feel like if it were on our server, we'd maybe have a little bit more of that push and shove like we have, where it always kind of feels like the Horde and the Alliance are constantly trying to one-up each other.
Yeah, I think in this situation the problem was the Horde were also like against more faction imbalance, so they weren't really helping. They were just letting this guild be destroyed by the Alliance.
Yeah, I
And the
can see
thing
how, as
that's
a fellow Horde player, I wouldn't necessarily want to be on that type of a situation where I felt like my allies aren't really my allies. At the same time, too, I think we all kind of know WoW culture and understand that, if your guild just transferred over to a server, you kind of got to give them a chance to get to know you and integrate yourself on the server. And there are a lot of guilds that kind of take the identity that, they're off on their own little island. And WoW absolutely is a social game where I feel like you need to make ties with other players on your faction, even if they're not your guildmates, in order to get the most out of it.
I agree. I do agree with that assessment, and I definitely also agree that there are a lot of guilds that transfer to servers that maybe necessarily don't take the right approach to getting to know people. I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to think and say, um, because it happens. I mean, we've had it happen. We've even judged guilds on this server before really getting to know any of the people in. But I mean, the other important thing to think about too, at least I would, the thing that annoys me also about this is the fact that all of these people think that their server is this imbalanced server, and this guild shouldn't be transferring to us because this makes it more imbalanced. What options do you think they had? Almost all of the servers are pretty imbalanced one direction or the other. Like, there are very few balanced servers, and most of the balanced servers you can't transfer to because they're already overpopulated.
Yeah,
Like,
we've also gotten into this a little bit too in the past, which is guilds tend to, for obvious reasons, they want to be on populated servers, right? When it comes to recruiting, let me tell you, you do not want to be on a server where your faction isn't about on the same wavelength where your guild is currently at. Otherwise, it is a disaster. And this actually works in multiple directions. But I recall this specifically when I used to play in vanilla. My guild was quite a bit ahead of the rest of the server, and for a while it was super cool, right? We were all the way far ahead. It was super big ego boost. What was a big issue though is when it came time to recruit, when we had to replace some players and the rest of the faction was an entire raid tier behind us, that created major problems, and it was eventually something that contributed to disbanding the guild in the end. And
yeah,
this is something that absolutely is something every guild fears, is not being able to refill their coffers with players.
well, it's actually even a bigger issue come the Burning Crusade. I know we've been talking about the possibility of Burning Crusade classic server, um, based on the Blizzard like questionnaire they sent out a few weeks ago, or maybe 2 months ago at this point. I don't know. Time kind of blurs together. In the Burning Crusade, the getting keyed for the later tiers of content required raid kill bosses. So when we were a big guild on Ice Crown back in the day, and we needed to recruit people, it was incredibly challenging to find people who'd already killed Vosh and Kale when we were in Black Temple. We ended up having to frequently, for recruit's sake, go back and do old raids to get them keyed for the content we were doing.
Yeah, I remember a similar thing had happened to me in EverQuest, and oh man, this was an absolutely brutal experience. The guild that I was in was on a future raid tier, and the only way I could get caught up was to raid with other guilds that resented my guild. And man, let me tell you, that was not a fun experience. Having to go back at any time is always a little bit difficult in an MMO, right? The economy of the game really flows on all of us kind of being on the same page. This has also become an issue for people that like playing the original part of the game, like doing leveling up with groups, going through the raid dungeons with groups. It's hard to do because the boosting economy is where people want to be right now. So it's almost hard to find a non-boosting group, and of course those boosting groups want you to pay.
Yeah, another good point. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I like, even though we have this crazy queue time on Grobulus, I would welcome. I mean, the unfortunate thing is this guild that transferred to Chrome Crush is even with our queue times, I would probably still welcome them transferring to our server to help keep our Horde and Alliance balance close to the same. Because I know right now um, we're slightly outnumbered as Horde, so like an infusion of another guild of players could be great. But really, we need to solve this queue time problem because I mean we're like the last server on the list, so we don't have any of these awesome layers that all the top 9 servers got that immediately eliminated their queues.
Among
I don't
other
know.
things like Black Lotus prices going down.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that for the first time in this game, I'm paying more for Black Lotuses than the people I know who are playing on Herod.
Yeah, it's almost kind of funny to even imagine that we've come to this circle where the so overpopulated servers are now like kind of in a slightly preferable situation, at least if it comes to queues. Now, if you hate layering, then maybe even Globulus still isn't the place to be in that regard because you still have to deal with queues and potentially overcrowding. But that would really be the only situation is if you're extremely anti-layering, are those kind of not preferred destinations at the moment.
Yeah,
One of
but I don't
these
know. I
things,
mean,
though, that was brought up was an interview with Mike Morheim this past week where he addressed kind of some of these issues and about how WoW has evolved over the years. And these are kind of some of the things like the raid finder, group finder, some of these more modern tools that Classic doesn't have. And just kind of talked about how it's really affected the community aspect of the game and maybe even given some insight as to why WoW Classic has succeeded as much as it had in this era of gaming that we're now in.
so it was a very interesting interview, and it was very obvious that and I mean, I don't mean to. I certainly don't mean to disparage the interviewer. I don't know him from any of his work beforehand. It was pretty obvious that, like, at the start of the interview, the questions he really wanted to ask were all related to like Mike's opinions on how Blizzard is being run now that he's gone. But he sort of tiptoed around asking those at the start because it's also pretty obvious that like Mike isn't just gonna like bash his old friends because that's not the right thing to do from any perspective. He had some pretty decent answers, I think, regarding like how Blizzard's being handled by Activision at this point, and sort of the direction that Ian's attempting to take the game in Shadowlands, as far as like player feedback and improving the game overall. Um, but the part of the interview that I actually liked the most was when they were talking about how WoW's changed socially throughout the years, and I've actually been doing a bit of research about the concept of social gaming since that interview because it got me interested in how game designers approach the social aspect of games and sort of their goals in a lot of games. And I found some pretty cool stuff out.
Yeah, the social aspect of gaming is something that I feel is one of the more underrated aspects about what people get out of gaming. And for a lot of people, it can be a huge part of your social circle. It can be a huge part of where you get that aspect of your life. So having this be a part of the gaming experience, having this be something that the game devs think about is a huge part of this particular genre of game and why a lot of people love this genre of game and why we keep coming back.
So I think WoW is in a unique position, or was when it was created, because it wasn't the concept of social gaming hadn't evolved until after WoW's sort of raid design, right? Because like there were certainly raids that were happening in games before WoW. Like EverQuest had raids. It wasn't that there weren't like groups of people playing EverQuest. What was the original Star Wars MMO out before WoW? I never played it. I don't remember if it was after WoW or before it.
Yeah,
I know,
oh man, I can't exactly remember now. It's all a little
was it
hazy in
Star Wars
that.
Galaxies?
Yeah, it came out around the time of WoW, but I couldn't tell you if which side of WoW it was on at this point.
So both of those obviously had like a pretty big social experience, right? Like you were still playing with lots of people. There were challenging things to defeat with groups. Um, it- I don't know. I think WoW sort of took everything to the next level with with like instanced rating content, and it was really before the advent of let's like because right now, if you look at how most game design goes, everything that's social in games that are developed like these days, air quotes these days, it's more about player retention than it is about actually creating a social experience. It's all uh, like 17% of players stick with games more when they're a part of a guild. It's like a statistic that I read. Because they have other people who they feel like are relying on them to do a job. Whereas when WoW came out, the social space that it created wasn't for some statistic. They weren't like creating this space to try and just drive player retention up. They ended up just creating a world where people ended up spending tons and tons of time, and it was immense. And I think that it's incredibly interesting and amazing that they sort of stumbled into this online social space sort of by accident.
Yeah, one of the things that sort of jumps out to me about that statement too is how we've developed this idea that everything is sort of down to like the statistic, right? And you said something that was interesting in that 17% of people who join a guild are, they're going to be more likely to be retained. But the experience that that guild represents is missed completely from that statistic. You're more likely to stick with a group of people that I feel that you're actually engaged and involved with, and just simply having that feature there and available. Yeah, people will use it, but creating something that people want to come back to is, I feel like, that X factor where you can't really necessarily equate an easy number or an easy statistic to retention for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and you see the difference today in other games. A good example of a game that comes to mind. Uh, some may have played it, some may have heard of it, many probably not. There's a mobile game. It's a very popular mobile game called AFK Arena. It's your standard like mobile like free to play, but has like a monetary system where you can buy stuff. And it has a guild system in it, and the guild system is almost completely irrelevant. Like it literally, it all it is the statistic. All it really seems like is this like tacked on. Let's attempt to get people to stay in our game situation. Whereas like the the community focus in a game like WoW, where you have to spend time finding people to run dungeons with. You have to I mean, even in like compared to retail WoW, you have to actually physically go to the dungeon you're going to queue for, or you're going to run, as opposed to just queuing for it like in retail and just teleporting there.
Yeah, and this
It
is
just
one of the
makes the
things too where even though I'm a big fan of not wasting time and getting right into that dungeon, these are some of the things that have to be balanced when we talk about what we want for a game, right? It's convenient to be able to teleport right to a dungeon, but does it actually hurt the continuity of the world and the social experience and all these other things by making everything at your fingertips? And in that regard, I feel like an MMO is different than, like an RTS or an FPS or something. And that missing out on that continuity is always going to hurt the social experiment part of it. And how much you're willing to eliminate that is going to have everything to do with how cohesive your world feels.
Yeah, it feels like over the years in retail, because I've played every expansion. It feels like over the years they've added a ton of things that make it easier to do stuff, more convenient from like a player time investment perspective, right? Like if I only have a little bit of time to play after work because I have some stuff to do, it's easy on retail for me to just queue for a random dungeon as a tank, get into a dungeon, do it, and then stop for the day. Whereas if I want to run Ubers to try and get a flask of the Titans recipe, it's going to take me a lot more time to find 10 people, maybe make sure none of the other people need that recipe, uh, go to the dungeon, and then clear it without wiping.
Yeah, and this is in one of the things that Mike Morheim had said about it is these things did make a lot of sense for players when they were implemented into the game, right? There's very clear reasons why something like a dungeon finder is a huge use. And I remember when I was playing Final Fantasy XIV, I used the dungeon finder all the time. And it didn't necessarily hurt the social aspect of the game. I still made friends on my servers, but I just, I quickly got my dungeons out of the way. But at the end of the day, I still feel like the dungeon experience resulted in me meeting more and making more lasting relationships in a game like EverQuest, where there was almost no ability to skip anything, almost down to where you ported to was sometimes even inconvenient. So there's somewhere in that spectrum between those 2 points where I feel like there's still a work in progress in regards to that.
Well, I think the clear thing that Classic has showed us over retail at the moment is how maybe the convenience takes away from sort of the grandeur of the game. Like it's great and awesome to be able, like I said, to be able to just teleport there, do it, awesome, sweet. But it's kind of cool, especially like think about this. Like the first time, one of the dungeons that I remember most fondly going through the first time I ever did it back in actual Classic was Sunken Temple. The reason for it was because I didn't really know what to expect. I some random people told me that there was a dungeon I could do. I didn't know where it was. They had to tell me, where to go. And I see this pyramid that's half underwater, and I'm like, damn, that looks cool. And we start off by going into the pyramid, and we kind of got lost on the way to the portal. And we had to find our way around down there. I know people to this day who still get lost on their way down to Sunken Temple's instance portal.
I'm probably one of them.
What a cool situation to experience for the first time. Like, now I've been there, 55, 60 times. It's, it's just another dungeon at this point to me, but that doesn't change the fact that in the first time I went there, it was incredibly memorable. Same thing goes with Dead Mines. I think Dead Mines is one of the best dungeons ever designed, like in a video game. In terms of how cool it is, getting to the dungeon, just that whole aesthetic of like Van Cleef and the Defias. So they miss out on a lot of truly great fantasy story situations by making it just more convenient for players. And I really do think the question that the developers should really be asking themselves at this point is, do we dial back the convenience to make the game better?
One thing that I found while I was playing the game Red Dead Redemption 2, and I really, really enjoyed this game. I didn't play the original, and this is kind of why it was interesting to me. There's a lot of running around and extra just travel that you have to do, and sometimes it can be a little lengthy and long, but I never got sick of it because exploring the world always was fascinating. And I wonder if this is maybe a piece of what modern MMOs are going to have to start doing a little bit more in order to make something like a little bit extended travel to help flesh out their world work a little bit better, which is give us something interesting to traverse and to look at and to find some inner beauty and some things to stumble upon and really be amazed by and carve out some pieces of the world that are special to us. And we're maybe a little bit more likely to put up with some of these downsides. Maybe make travel slightly convenient, but don't completely eliminate it to the point where you can just snap your fingers and be there. They had kind of like a quick travel thing where you would get a cinematic view of your, ride there, and that kind of helped with speeding along, but without feeling like I didn't go through the world.
Yeah, so I have a good example, and I don't know how it's turned out at this point because I haven't played the game in years. I think they have flying now, so it might be ruined. But I played when it came out, not EverQuest 2, Guild Wars 2. And one of the cool things that Guild Wars did is they used to just have jumping puzzles all over their world, where and the jumping puzzle would typically lead to like some awesome vista where you could like see out across the zone that you were in. And it was awesome. And the jumping puzzles were all kind of hidden, but when you find like this weird spot that you could jump to, and just by total accident, you'd start like jumping up the side of some tree or some mountain into these like little ledges. I don't know, stuff like that. Very interesting, and I totally agree. I think that even though it is less convenient, the aspect of exploring and the creation of this like unique large online world is one of the things that sort of drew most people in the first place. And I think it's important that they try to capture that and moving forward, or just try to recapture it if they want to be as successful with retail WoW as they have been with Classic.
Yeah, and just kind of on the flip side too, now that I think about it, it was the one thing that go in my mind that when I go back to Final Fantasy XIV that I always thought, man, WoW did this better, specifically vanilla WoW, and why after I had quit Final Fantasy XIV, I had kind of said, I think I'm done with MMOs for now, except for Classic WoW. And it's because of that feel of everything was a destination point. And I could get anywhere I needed to be instantly, and everything was a straight line to where I needed to go. There became this lack of exploration, and everything was just a set course that I never had the need to deviate from. And getting back into this experience where maybe just something catches my eye for a second. I go, hey, wait a second. I got to go take another look at that. Something that happened to me quite a bit when I had played Red Dead Redemption. And I was just going through something. Wait a second. I need to look at this landscape closer. This is some amazing graphical work right here. I got to applaud that person's work.
I mean, any Final Fantasy players here, a definite joke is the one place you couldn't fast travel was the Burning Sands. God, I hated having to go to that place all the time. But yeah, no, I totally agree. I frequently in video games will stop to admire scenic views. It's one of the reasons why I appreciate the Soulsborne series so much, because all of the level interconnectedness of the design that From Software puts into their games. You could like stand on like a mountain and look out over some crazy looking beautiful far off town and know that somehow you're going to be in that town soon, but it's just you're like looking at this gorgeous like cathedral from on top of a mountain, or you're looking at this like swamp from up on a cathedral, and you're like, well, man, I'm probably going to end up in that swamp soon. The work that some of these game developers put into just like breathtaking imagery is honestly what like why I continue playing newer games at all, just because of how great some of that like most games to me aren't. I play a lot of WoW and a lot of Dota. I really just play new things to like look at incredible things like that.
Well, in a lot of regards, too, I feel like some games, for the most part, like if you've played one, you've played them all in a certain sense, right? Like how many games are new to you for like maybe the first hour or two, and then you figure it out and you go, oh right, this is like this game that I played, or I can apply the skill that I learned from this game over to that game. And there's so many examples of that, because with the systems that we got, there's only so many ways you can press the button in a certain order and things like that. These other aspects of what create the work of art are what keep our imaginations coming back to these games. Part of that work of art, of course, is what the people do with the work of art that we're already experiencing, and nobody does that better than the server of Grobulus, of course. And we've got some great events coming up for you. First one I want to talk about right here, Thunder Bluff Debate Society. Are warlocks a necessary evil, or should they even be allowed to openly practice warlock stuff in Orgrimmar? I guess spellcraft, I guess, is the word I was looking for there.
No, I think warlock stuff is definitely the official term.
But yes, that's going to be the next debate for the Thunder Bluff Debate Society. And yeah, I'm going to be interested. Nobody likes getting killed by an infernal in the middle of Orgrimmar.
Yeah, that's fair.
On the other hand, it is pretty funny to watch someone get killed by that infernal.
Especially if they're AFK.
Oh yeah, and they don't even know what happened. Another awesome and interesting event coming up, the Juju Jamboree, a celebration of troll heritage. This is on June the 6th. Loa worship, pit fighting, raptor racing, traditional dance, Zendali literature, sacrifices, cannibalism. Holy crap, Myth.
Yeah, it's a strange world we live in.
Got to do something to keep the time passed while we are in real life quarantine, and I guess a little cannibalism with the trolls might be that thing to do on May the 6th, if that's your thing.
As long as Alex Jones isn't there.
Yeah, you got to be careful, man. He will eat your ass. So watch out.
He will eat your ass. He will feed you to his daughters.
Be careful. That's a threat that I actually might consider credible of all the things that he's ever said on his show.
Yeah, I feel like the property value around his home just went down.
Yeah, could you imagine having to be the real estate agent on that one? Just going like, yeah, this may happen, but maybe don't worry about it. Nah, what else he got for us?
Yeah, I wouldn't be purchasing a home in that area.
PvP videos from Caned of Crimson Dawn. Caned's bizarre adventure. We talked a little bit earlier about some of that Silithus PvP that's going on, particularly with some of those rep bosses. You get some of that in this nice, short, quick, and his first PvP video. And Caned is just one of those guys that I've seen out there since the World PvP phase. So go check that out on the Grob subreddit.
Yeah, the PvP in Silithus right now, too, is incredibly spicy.
Yeah, I did a little bit of that over the last couple of days, and man, let me tell you, it is very, very fun to be in Silithus if you're looking for a battle. Nobody is trusting anybody around those bosses, and be careful when you summon them, too, because you are ripe for an ambush. It is a total battleground territory right now, and it was just kind of a nice memory too of back from the World PvP phase when we had that big old battle in Silithus on the last day of World PvP. Just a nice reminder of a classic Grobulus moment.
I'm actually kind of curious. Do you know if say a group summons one of the dukes, the big guys, let's say the lords. A group summons a lord, and another group wipes them. Can they both take the tap and the loot from that mob?
I'm not 100% sure about that. I want to say because it's a summon monster, no. But I'm not 100% sure about that. And I do know that if you're in the group, you can potentially take the item from someone. So, like, ninja situations can definitely pop up.
Yeah, I feel like because it's summoned, you probably can't either. But I've never seen a situation where a group, got together and actually killed someone summoning one of them. So I don't know what the state of that is. That could be very interesting. Just get a sneaky group of people together and go steal some rep drops.
Yeah, that would be, that'd kick it up a notch for sure. Um, another PSA for people. Uber ports will only be available after 4:15 p.m. server time this week. So if you're looking to catch an Uber to your raid, less availability. I wonder if this maybe has a little bit to do with some of the volatility that's been going on and basically everywhere out in the world right now, especially as people have kind of wrapped up with their PvP grinds. And really, a whole new generation of players is taking on those PvP grinds. There's more people out in the world these days, for sure.
Yeah, and it is definitely the ramp up in toxicity. I think next week the Darkmoon Faire starts again.
Actually, I think it just
So
started back up, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go take a quick look at that
today.
my map. And yeah, I think I'm seeing some dark. No, wait. It says it ends in 5 days. That's what I'm seeing.
Oh, so it must have started yesterday.
Yeah, I think it just kicked off.
Interesting. I didn't think it started till tomorrow.
I'm not seeing the quest pop up, so maybe it did start tomorrow. I thought it started yesterday, but it does say it's going to be cooled down in 5 days, so.
Oh, maybe it starts in 5 days.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe my add-on's not calculating that properly. Because I don't see
Not
any of the
sure.
quests popped up.
I know it's coming back around. That I do know.
I thought I saw screenshots of it in Elwyn Forest, and I get the feeling that that is going to be the other big battleground right now. Maybe make that your first stop if you're getting world buffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of world buff griefing going on there. I think after what's been going on Grobulus this last week or two.
Yeah, any hope of seeing some of the wounds mend between some of these guilds is quickly evaporating. We are really just seeing almost like a weekly ramp up to the action going on around every major raid zone, and I think it's just kind of gotten to that point where, yeah, this is going to be a world PvP server for quite a bit.
Yeah, I kind of can't wait to see what the PvP is like when we do the Encourage event.
Yeah, I have been in semi-retired PvP mode for a little bit, right? I haven't been causing the same level of havoc I used to out in the world, but I will be respecking arms and getting those high warlord weapons out when that happens.
I mean, I like I said, I am looking forward. I'm also not looking forward to the lag spikes that we're gonna have to deal with because there's gonna be like hundreds of people in the same zone trying to kill each other.
Yeah, this is going to be really unprecedented territory as far as I'm concerned with this number of people. We know how it responds when world bosses are going on. I can't possibly imagine that they're going to be able to get out of this without some sort of layering or something going on.
Yeah, it'll be crazy. It'll be crazy. I mean, the servers lag bad enough when we're doing world bosses. When there's 4,000 people attempting to go to Silithus to kill the rare spawns that have like, because if I recall correctly, the rare spawns that get summoned during the AQ event have like the highest chance in the game to drop BOE epics that are high level. So things like T-Boo's Blazing Longsword. That's the only one that's really coming to mind. But like, since they have such a high chance to drop these great items, they're like incredibly like they're going to be super highly contested.
Yeah, and it's something like a T-Boost, it never goes out of style, right? Like, you're always gonna want to be able to rock that look, especially on Grobulus.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, with that being said, is there anything else going on the server at Grobulus that caught your eye, Myth?
Not this week, no. Um, the debate should be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with that. It's a great topic for the debate, and you know, very interesting with all that's going on, in the game and all that they're talking about. It's always kind of fun to see what they come up with, right? Should Thunderbluff have rails? Should Warlocks be able to summon in Orgrimmar? Always fun stuff. All right, well, thank you once again for listening to the show. If you liked it, please like and subscribe on YouTube, on SoundCloud, and as always, we post this on the Grob subreddit each week, so please upvote and post any questions you've got or things that you want to hear about. All right, well, thank you once again for listening, and we will catch you all next week.